The sixth video in the Getting the Most Out of Blackboard series is about creating and using tests in Blackboard. This is a complex topic because there are several types of questions available to you, so I've divided this video up by question type. Check the description below for timestamp links. Okay, let's build a test. You have two options for where to create a test. You can go to where you want the test to be, so I can go to my course content, and I can open the folder where I want it to be, go to assessments, and choose test. And that way it's created in the folder. I will still need to deploy it to make sure that it is available, but that's one way to create the test where you want it to reside. Or I can choose my navigation panel and scroll down to Course Management, go down to Course Tools, and I can scroll down to Tests, Surveys, and Pools. Click here, and I have these three options. Even if I create a test in the Content folder, I'll still also be able to find it under Tests here. So I'm going to click on Tests, and I want to build a test. First thing I have to do is give it a name. So for our practice here, I'm just going to call it practice. Okay, then I submit that part. Okay, now I'm ready to create some questions. This is where it gets complicated. Look at all those question types. I'm not going to do one for every single question type, just the ones that are the most commonly used. So let's start with our calculated formula. So we have to create a question that has variables in it. So let's say that I have something like this. Notice that the X has brackets around it and the Y has brackets around it. That lets Blackboard know that these are my variables. Okay, if you look at the question there, if a small glass can hold X ounces of water and a large glass can hold Y ounces of water, what is the total number of ounces in 4 large and 3 small glasses of water? Okay, and so now I need to put in a formula. And so my formula is going to be 4y plus 3x. Okay, so there's my formula. Notice that there are lots of different types of formulas that you can give. I am not a math person, so I'm keeping it simple. All right, so here you can choose an answer range. So this is if you don't need the answer to be spot on, if you want to give them sort of a little bit of a cushion, you can do that here. And then you can allow partial credit based on how close to the answer they were, etc. If you want to require units, if the answer needs to be in feet or if the answer needs to be in glasses of water, you can do that too. Okay, I can hit next. All right, this is where I'm going to define what I want my variables to be. I can give it a minimum value of basically anything. I can go negatives. I can go to 1,000. Okay, so I can give minimum values, maximum values, and I can choose whether I want decimal places or not. This is going to give Blackboard the opportunity to insert all sorts of numbers in there. So it just depends on kind of what you're working on, how difficult you want the numbers to be, whether you want them to be, negatives, whether you want them to be decimal places. That's up to you. Calculate answers to, you can give a number of decimals that you want the answers calculated to, and you can choose the number of answer sets. So if you have 20 students, you can make that a 20, and each person will get a different set of numbers. That way nobody's doing the same problem. If you want to reuse this question later, you can make the answer sets 40. And that way, if you reuse the question set later on, again, nobody gets the same answer. In fact, you can use this same question multiple times on this test. You can duplicate it, and it'll be different numbers. So that's one way that you can save yourself some time, is by creating questions that you can reuse just using different numbers. and then you can choose what kind of format you want the answer to be in. This shows you the possibilities. Here's the 10 sets of numbers that they're going to be using. If you had put 40 different answer sets in there, there would be 40 different sets of numbers. This shows what numbers they're going to put in and what the correct answer would be. You can choose to give feedback for the correct response. Tell them, good job, you did great. Incorrect feedback response, tell them you need to go back and look at your notes, try again. You can, for your own information, you can add categories. You can add the name of the lesson so that when you go to search for these questions later to put them on other tests, perhaps an exam, you can easily find them. Topics, level of difficulty, keywords, all of that information will help you later on. It's not necessary, you don't have to put it in there, but it will help you to find the question later if you want to add it on to a different test. And you can add notes there for yourself as well. Submit. And there's my question. So let's try another type of question. Let's look at the essay type question. If I want to add an essay type question, again, I have the option to add a question title, but it's not required. What is required is the actual question itself. I can put an answer in. I don't have to, it's not required, because with essay type questions, Blackboard is not going to be able to grade them for you. You're going to have to grade them yourself. So if you want to put an answer in just to kind of give you something to go off of when you're grading them, you can, but it's not required. You can add a rubric, which is always helpful for students if they can see what you're looking for. You can choose one that you've already created, that you have saved to your computer. You can create a new rubric, or you can create from existing. You can take an old one and change it up. Again, you have the categories and keywords. This is for your knowledge so that later on when you're looking for questions for an exam and you want to reuse some of your old questions, these categories, topics, level of difficulty, keywords, these will help you to locate the questions you're looking for. Submit. And that's all there is to adding an essay question. So relatively simple, especially compared to the calculated formula. But the difference is that you will have to add, you'll have to grade those yourself. Let's add another question type. We have fill in multiple blanks and fill in the blank. Very, very similar. If I choose fill in multiple blanks, then I will have a question with several different blanks. Whereas if I choose fill in the blank, I'm only going to have one blank. So it's basically up to you how many blanks you want to have in your question. Okay, let's say that we've been studying critical reading. And so I have a definition or a statement that I want them to be able to complete. So let's start with an easy one. I'm going to take out this word right here. And when we create our blanks, we want to use the brackets, just like we did for the calculated formula question. And I need to put something in there. Let's put the letter A. That's just my variable. That lets Blackboard know that that's where I want the blank. And then let's choose processes. I'm going to make that a blank. I'm going to give it a bracket. We're going to make it B. It has to be different from your first variable. Each variable has to be different. Let's make questions blank C and clarity blank D. And I can add as many as I want. I'm going to allow partial credit so that if they get some of the words right, they still get points. Okay, so now this is where I have to enter the correct answers. So for answer 1, remember it was critical. So now I have my answers that go in the blanks. So now Blackboard can grade this for me. The only problem is if If I've got exact match and they misspell this word, they're going to be counted incorrect. I can add feedback for correct response, feedback for incorrect. Again, we have the categories and keywords that if you enter something here to identify this question, it will help you when you are creating your test later on, your exams. You can add something in that will help clarify. And then you can put your notes here if you need to. For our next question type, let's go to Create Question and choose Matching. For this one, our question text needs to be our instructions. So let's say that I have several dates and I want students to match the date to the event that happened on that date. Again, I can allow partial credit so that if they get some of the answers correct, they'll be allowed to get some of the points. Alright, so down here is where I'm going to add my question pairs. So question 1, I'm going to put Wall Street crash as my question. My answer would be 1929. I can choose to have them be ordered randomly so that different people see different question choices, or I can have them ordered in a particular order. I can give feedback for correct responses and incorrect responses. I can choose categories, topics, level of difficulty, and keywords to add so that I can find this question later as I'm making other tests out. And I can make instructor notes for myself. Now I'm going to submit. And there is my created question with my question items and answer items. Our next type of question is multiple answer. There's multiple answer and multiple choice. These two are very similar. The difference is that for multiple choice, there's only one correct answer in the answer choices. For multiple answer, multiple answers can be correct. So let's create one of those as an example. Again, I have the question text. So let's say that I'm teaching a class on nutrition and I have a question like this. Which of the following are good sources of protein? Choose all that apply. Okay, I can choose whether I want the answers to be numbered. I can choose whether they're going to display vertically or horizontally. I can allow partial credit if they get some of the answers correct, and I can also choose to have the answers show in different order to different students. Alright, now I'm going to put in my answer choices. And if I want more choices, I can just change the number here. So if I want a 5th choice, I can add a 5th choice, or as many choices as I want. Then I choose which are the correct answers. This one is correct, this one's correct, and this one's correct. I can give feedback for correct response, feedback for incorrect response. Again, I can choose category, topic, level of difficulty, keywords. I can fill that information out to help me sort through the questions later if I want to add this question to a different test. I submit. And there's my new question. The question and the correct answers are marked. The last one that we're going to look at is true-false. True-false is pretty simple to do. I'm going to put my question here. Good study habits include getting a good night's rest. Okay, so basically you've got your true and your false. That answer is true, so I'm going to leave it on true. I can leave them vertical or I can make them horizontal as far as the answer choices. I can give feedback for correct response, feedback for incorrect response. I can fill out categories, topics, levels of difficulty, and keywords to help me find this answer later on when I want to add it to another test. And then I submit. Now that we've created our test, we've got all the questions that we want. We go down to the bottom and you see the word OK in the corner. We're going to click that. Okay, so now here are the tests that we have. Then we see the word deployed. Notice that this one is deployed in a folder already. Down here, these two are not deployed. I want this test to be in my course content. So I can go into a folder where I think that test belongs, and I can put test. I'm going to choose a test that we've already created, submit. All of this is already filled out basically. I've already done this, but I do need to, let's see, do I want to make it available to students right away? Yes. Do I need to add a new announcement? Do I want to allow multiple attempts? How many attempts? And which of those attempts am I going to choose as the score? Do I want to force completion so that once it's started, it has to be done in one sitting? Do I want to set a timer? And then how long do I want this to be displayed? And password. If this is going to be a test that they can only take at a particular time, then I need to create a password for them to have to enter to be able to take the test. Are there any groups or users who need an exception? For example, if I've put a timer on it, do I have students whose accommodations include that they have unlimited time? Then I need to add them as an availability exception. And then here's my due date. When do I want this done by? I can choose any time, or any date, any time. Do not allow students to start the test if the due date is passed, if I'm trying to control when it's taken. Then we're going to include this test in the Grade Center score calculations. Once it's graded, it will automatically show up in our Grade Center. When do we want feedback to be given to students? After submission? Do we want to give it to them on a specific date, after the due date, after grades are entered? And do I want them to see all the answers, the correct answers, or the submitted answers? And do I want them to see feedback? Do I want them to see incorrect questions? All of those are considerations for the instructor to choose. And the test presentation all at once, so they see all the questions at one time, or one question at a time. And it just kind of depends on whether you want them to be able to look at the other questions that may have answers or hints to the questions that they're working on. Also, whether you want them to be able to go back and answer an earlier question. And do you want to randomize questions? So lots of options that you can choose. Then I submit. Now this practice test is available in my Week 2 peer editing folder. All right, that's everything you need to know about how to create and deploy a test. If you have any questions, please reach out to Kelt for help. Otherwise, please watch our next video, which has to do with how to use your gradebook.